What would you do if someone built a bridge through your backyard? What if they didn't ask, didn't pay, just showed up with concrete and machines? What if the people doing it weren't strangers, but your own HOA? Would you fight back, or would you let their arrogance bury them, one slab at a time? Because that's what I did. And it all started on a quiet Tuesday morning. You ever wake up to find your backyard isn't yours anymore? It was a Tuesday morning, calm, coffee in hand, birds chirping. Then I heard it, the clank of steel, buzz of machines, yelling from men in hard hats. I stepped out to find no warning, no notice, a half-built bridge stretching across my property like I didn't exist, right through my garden, over my creek, connecting a walking trail I never agreed to. And there, in her oversized sunglasses and that smug grin, was Karen, president of the HOA, clipboard in hand like it was the Constitution. "Good morning," she chirped. "Exciting, isn't it? The community voted. The board approved. You'll barely notice it's there." "Barely notice? Lady, you put a concrete artery through my soul. I didn't sign a single paper. No easement, no consent, no compensation. Just bulldozers on my land like I was a speed bump. I could have yelled, sued, called the sheriff. But I didn't, because I had a better idea. See, there's something funny about bridges. They're only as strong as what they stand on. And when the HOA gathered for their little ribbon-cutting ceremony, all smiles and speeches, the bridge didn't hold. It collapsed, right in front of everyone, right when they were testing it. Total accident, of course. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it got that far. How the HOA declared war on the wrong guy, and how I buried them, one concrete slab at a time. Let me back up a bit. I live on the edge of a quiet, wooded neighborhood, peaceful. Mostly older folks, a few families, and then the HOA, or as I call them, the Homeowners Oppression Authority. When I bought my place 6 years ago, I made sure my lot was outside their jurisdiction, on purpose. No dues, no rules, no nonsense, just land, trees, and a little creek that ran through the back. It was paradise, until they decided to expand. It started with whispers, a community walking trail, green initiative, better property values. Seemed innocent enough, until they started surveying my land. One morning, I caught 2 men with fluorescent vests measuring stakes right by my tomato patch. I walked up friendly but firm. "Hey, what are you doing on my property?" One of them checked his clipboard. "Oh, you're lot 47A? Yeah, the trail extension runs through here. HOA says you're greenlit." "Greenlit by who?" I asked. "Karen," he said. Like that name explained everything. Karen, president of the HOA, wears pearls to mow the lawn, thinks a clipboard makes her queen. I had dealt with her once before. When she tried to tell me my mailbox wasn't uniform, I told her it wasn't hers either. That bridge project, her passion project, said it would connect the community, but she never connected with me. I called her that day. She picked up like she was expecting applause. "Oh, hi." "Yes, the bridge is already funded and underway. We're really excited." "You do realize you're trespassing, right?" She chuckled. "It's not trespassing when it benefits everyone, except the person who owns the land." She paused. Then her tone changed, polite venom. "You know, people who resist progress usually have something to hide." Click. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next day, a formal notice of cooperation was taped to my door. Not a legal document, just HOA stationery and a smug letter saying I had 10 days to comply or face civil dispute resolution. The tone was clear: fall in line or be flattened. Then the trucks came. 5 of them, dumping gravel, laying rebar. I hadn't even had my morning coffee when they were pouring concrete 20 feet from my porch. I called the county. They bounced me to zoning. Zoning sent me to legal. Legal told me, get this, they couldn't find the permit. Not that it didn't exist, that they couldn't find it. I walked out and stood in front of a bulldozer. The foreman stopped, confused. I told him flat out, "You're on private property. You either show me a permit or pack it up." He shrugged. "Karen said we're good." "You got a problem, take it up with her." That was just the beginning, because what came next wasn't just construction, it was war. By the end of that week, my backyard looked like a construction zone run by lunatics. The HOA had barricaded the area with caution tape, dumped porta-potties on the edge of my lawn, and even installed a sign that read, "Future site of the Lakeside Unity Bridge, a project by the Willow Oaks HOA." The kicker? My property isn't even in Willow Oaks. I tried reasoning. I printed aerial maps, deed copies, boundary lines, all proving that the land was mine. I hand-delivered them to Karen's mailbox. The next day, I found the papers shredded and stuffed in my bird feeder. Then came the fines. Yes, fines. Even though I wasn't an HOA member, they started sending letters. $200 obstruction of community project. $50 unauthorized signage. $75 refusal to cooperate. I laughed at first, until I got a letter from their attorney claiming they were within rights, due to something called a Shared Access Initiative Clause. Sounds official, right? It's not. I looked it up. It was from their own bylaws, which hold as much legal weight on my property as a pirate code. But they didn't stop there. Next, my internet went out for 3 days. No warning. Turns out, the HOA construction crew accidentally cut my underground line while installing drainage. No apologies. Just an email saying, construction inconveniences are temporary. Community benefits are permanent. Then the real sabotage started. One night I heard rustling. I stepped out with a flashlight and caught 2 teenagers running off. They'd spray-painted HOA hater across my tool shed. The next morning, Karen knocked on my door. She didn't come to apologize. She came with a laminated petition and a fake smile. We've decided your behavior is hostile to the neighborhood. Several residents agree. We're collecting signatures to restrict your access to community services. I stared at her. I am the community. This is my land. She blinked slowly and said, not for long. That night I sat on my porch, seething, watching the lights from their work crews flicker in the distance. The sound of concrete mixers echoing like drums of war. And then something happened. I heard yelling. Then a crash. One of the cement trucks had rolled into my creek, tearing out the bank and flooding part of my garden. My rosemary plants, gone. The path to my shed, mud-soaked and destroyed. I walked down the next morning to find the foreman smoking by the wreckage. He didn't even look surprised. Insurance will handle it, he muttered. But they wouldn't. Because that wasn't just an accident. It was the final straw. I filed a police report, filed a complaint with the county, started compiling evidence. I even bought a drone. Every day I filmed overhead footage, every new pour, every piece of rebar, every time Karen showed up with her smug little notepad. Then came a small win. A county clerk emailed me a permit copy that had been overlooked. It was signed all right, but not by a county official. It was signed by Karen herself, as if her HOA title gave her legal authority. That was the crack in the dam. So I got quiet, stopped yelling, stopped calling, let them think I'd given up, let them keep building. I'd smile and wave at the workers, even brought them coffee once. Karen watched from her SUV like she'd finally won. But while they were laying concrete, I was laying a trap. Because here's the thing, their bridge, it wasn't on solid ground. Literally, that whole back section they poured, they never tested the soil. I'd warned them weeks ago the area was prone to erosion, old creek bed, soft foundation, but they ignored it. I had the drone footage. I had time-stamped warnings. I even had a geotech report I quietly paid for, showing the land couldn't support that much weight without proper support beams. They built anyway, and they scheduled a community unveiling and test walk. It was all over the flyers, ribbon cutting, Saturday, 11 a.m. Come see the future. Well, the future came fast, and it couldn't hold. They say karma takes its time. Turns out it just needed a weak foundation and a drone with a good zoom. 3 days after the bridge collapse, I got a call from the county inspector. Not only had the HOA bypassed permits, they'd falsified documents, claimed easement rights that didn't exist, and began construction on private property using funds collected under false pretenses. In short, fraud, trespassing, and misappropriation. The inspector chuckled when he said, "This isn't just a fine. This is a full-blown audit." Karen tried to spin it, of course. Emails went out to residents claiming I sabotaged the bridge and that I was threatening the neighborhood's unity. But the footage didn't lie. Neither did the geotechnical report. Neither did the man who used to serve on the HOA board, who, after seeing the collapse, stepped forward with emails showing that Karen knew the soil was unstable. She just didn't care. Within a week, the HOA was slapped with over $60,000 in fines. Karen was forced to step down as president. The HOA was ordered to fully remove the bridge at their expense. I was awarded damages for trespassing and property destruction. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was the meeting, the mandatory special HOA assembly, where residents were allowed to voice their concerns. I showed up with my drone footage queued up on a projector. When it played, the collapse, the soaking, the chaos, the room was silent, except for one guy in the back, who muttered, "Guess the bridge couldn't handle Karen's ego." Laughter broke out. The mood shifted. People were angry, not at me, but at her. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd steamrolled. Other residents shared stories. Fines for flowers, threats over fences, intimidation over dues, and when they called for a vote to formally remove her from all HOA involvement, unanimous, she left the room without a word. But before I walked out, I stood at the mic and said, "Funny thing about bridges. They're supposed to bring people together, not bulldoze over them. Maybe next time ask before you build on someone else's land." Mic drop. 2 months later, the bridge was gone. The land was restored, partially. They couldn't regrow my rosemary, but I planted a fig tree in its place. Strong roots. Quiet resilience, Karen. Last I heard, she moved out. Too much tension in the neighborhood, according to one gossipy neighbor. Good riddance. Looking back, I never wanted a fight. I just wanted to be left alone, to grow tomatoes, sip coffee by my creek, and not worry about HOA presidents declaring war on my land with clipboards and fake permits. But sometimes, when the system gets too entitled, you have to remind it who owns the dirt beneath its feet. I didn't need to scream, didn't need to sabotage. I just needed to document, be patient, and let the truth collapse under its own weight. There's a certain poetry to watching someone fall into the very mess they poured themselves, especially when they thought they were untouchable. And if there's one thing I learned from this, respect isn't something you demand with fines and rules. It's something you earn by knowing where your property ends and where someone else's begins. To those who've dealt with overreaching HOAs, nosy neighbors, or petty little tyrants, just know your silence isn't weakness. It might be the start of your plan, because the best revenge is legal, documented, and quietly satisfying. What would you have done if someone built a bridge on your land? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you made it this far, comment "Justice served" so I know you stayed till the end. Don't forget to like, share with someone who's dealing with HOA drama, and subscribe for more true stories of karma. Come back in quiet revenge. Because sometimes the creek may run quiet, but the land always remembers.